guys, welcome back to No Hits DCG. Today we have a special guest with us, one of our good buddies back from New York City, our locals. His name is Daniel, and he recently did pretty well, I would say, in the One Piece Nationals at Bandai Card Fest over in Orlando, Florida. And today he's going to do a bit of introducing himself, and we're going to talk about what he played and what's a little different about his deck list. So why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
My name is Daniel. Yeah, like said, I'm here local here in New York, and I decided to bring Blackbeard to Nats. I finished top 32. I did get my invite through one of the regionals in, I think it was a OP09 format. So I used starter deck Luffy at the time, Black Luffy, and I did not think that deck was viable going into Nats. But with the release of 09, I decided to pick the new Black leader and brought this to compete.
And why specifically Blackbeard? I feel like a lot of people going into the format, into nationals, a lot of talk was about how Dofi is the best deck in the format. Dofi is probably one of the most represented decks in the format. And as far as a lot of people say, Teach doesn't really have a great matchup into Dofi. So what made you confident that Teach was a good choice for you?
Yeah, so I generally like to pick a deck that doesn't have like a really bad matchup, and I think outside of the Dofi, I think Teach is generally like 50-50 or slightly favored into Teach. So as long as I can figure out the Dofi matchup, I should be okay in any other matchup. And I modified the list to have a better chance into Dofi, so then with my tweaks, I figured that I could have a really good chance against any deck that I would face.
And what did you end up playing for both your Day 1 Swiss and your top cut in 32?
Yeah, so for Day 1, I faced a Dofi, 2 Pluffys, 3 BYs, a Bonnie, and a Mirror, and I think that was it. And then for Day 2, I faced Shanks.
So why don't we get into the deck now and let's see what you brought for us.
Yeah, so for Blackbeard, it has most of the cards came in 09, and I feel like you need to use most of them. So the big boss monster here of Blackbeard is the 10 cost Teach. If you ever get in a situation where you start chaining these, you usually just win the game. This card is extremely powerful, locking down one of your opponent's characters, and then just having a 12k blocker is just like fantastic. It's really defensive. So outside of your Teach, you play, I have 4 Burgess. Burgess is your mid-game body that ends up becoming really powerful late game. He gets 1,000 power for every 4 cards trashed. So if you're milling a lot, this guy can be like 10k, 11k swinger endgame, and if you played it early, it just gets a lot of value. And the fact that he can't be KO'd comes up pretty often in a lot of the matchups, specifically against like black or yellow. Outside of those 2 big monsters, this is a traditional black deck, so you're going to have some KO and some reduction, and these are the Blackbeard cards that you can use. Doc Q KOs a 1 cost, and if he's ever KO'd, you get to draw a card, so it has a pretty good replacing itself. And Augur is your main reducer. Activate main, rest, you get to do -3, so if you're playing Van Augur's, Doc Q's, you could stall by removing smaller bodies until late game where you can start chaining Teach. So outside of your mid-game bodies, your reduction, and your boss monster, I do play 7 Searchers. I have 3 of the My Era Begins and 4 Lafitte's. I do not play any stage in this build, so I'm just working around with 7 Searchers. Mainly Lafitte is going to help me find my pieces, and My Era helps buff up Burgess while also searching for whatever I need at the moment. If I need reduction, I'll get the Van Augur. If I need KO, I'll get the Doc Q. Or if I have a pretty good hand already set up for the future turns, I get a Teach or a Burgess. Then I have my 2Ks. I only play 6 2Ks in my list. Definitely playing 4 of the Stronger. Stronger being able to give a -2 comes up often if you need to remove a threatening body. Shiryu I don't use as often, so I only play 2 of these. But I only stuck with 6 2Ks for this deck list. I felt like for Blackbeard, rarely do you counter, so you usually just take the life or use a blocker to sort of take care of a bigger hit. I feel like this current meta has a lot of big, tall monsters, Shanks, Rush Luffy, where you're not countering out of those. So generally, you're not really countering out of much and just blocking to sort of survive hits. So I only play 6 2Ks. And then the last Blackbeard card are these black holes. I play 4 black holes. Since I don't play stage, I do hurt yourself in the mirror. I think stage is really good in some matchups. But if I do have 4 black holes, I get to handle in the mirror to remove their Burgesses. But also, I found that having to have more of these black holes allows me to control the board a little bit better if I can't get something down low enough for Doc Q. So those are the Blackbeard, I think, staples for most. Outside of that, these are more traditional cards that you'll also see inside Blackbeard lists for Laboons. So Augur is only giving you -3 reduction with Doc Q, that KOs a 4. But using Laboon with Doc Q, you can then reach 5. I think 5 is a very important number, at least in this current format, where if you're facing against Floofy, the Sanguro is a priority target. Against Bonnie, the Cavendishes should also be removed as soon as possible. Against Black Yellow, most of their big brothers are 5 costs, but to reach 5, you have the Laboon and the Doc Q, and if you don't have those, a lot of the Blackbeard decks also play 4 finger pistols. So you have a lot of ways to KO efficiently up to 5 cost. Then for the rest of the deck list, these are tech options that I had put in. So as I was saying earlier, I think going into Nats, I think the main decks that I was expecting to face were Dofi and Poofy. So I teched in a lot more cards to make those matchups a little bit more favorable. And we can start off one with Brook. So I put in 2 Brook. You do not get the on-play, just because your leader ability is blocking those for your deck. But to help also with the odd curve, if you go first, dropping Brook on 3 is like a substitute for Doc Q. I know Doc Q can KO a 1, and this is effectively what Brook is doing, but Brook is a little bit of a stronger body that can't be taken out with like a small searcher. Dofi is playing like Peronas, Sengokus, Pluffy is playing the 1-cost Law, and your Lafitte's and your Doc Q's are just easy targets for their searchers. So Brook is going to require a swing from their leader, while also having the same effect basically as Doc Q. This comes up pretty often. I like dropping this on curve because then I can follow up with the Brook of the Boon to KO at 5, but also being able to hit the opponent with another 5 by just investing 1 dot onto the Brook. So I think that little pressure that the Brook can have is pretty important. And it also plays another role with another tech card that I have in. I put in 2 Mancherry. So for this deck, I think some of the matches do get a little bit grindier. Blackbeard, once you start using leader ability and you start trashing your cards, you're almost put on a timer. And if you do not end the game within a point where you're not basically have no cards in hand, it's going to be pretty bad. But Mancherry helps me change the game plan a little bit, where I can use Mancherry to bring back a lot of key cards and have a lot of pseudo blockers to make my opponent use up their swings, and I could prolong the game a little bit more before I start spamming my 10 drop teaches. So Mancherry comes up pretty often to bring back. It could bring back Brook. It could bring back Laboons. It could bring back my 2K, Shiryu, or if you need Burgess, or if you need the reduction with Augur. So you have a lot of options here with Mancherry, and then with my last tech, I do play 3 Garp, and now I put in this toolbox, per se, with my trash, with Mancherry, where if I need reduction, I can bring back Laboon or Augur, depending on how much Dawn I have to use for the turn. If I need to bring back another beater, I can bring back Burgess. If I need 2Ks, I can play get the Shuriru, so that's why I only play 6, so that Mancherry could effectively get this card back. If I need a KO'er, I can bring back the Brook. I do need the turn set up before I can start using it, but I can think ahead about when I need to do that, because I only play the 4 dot Q, and if I use up all the dot Qs, I have to use an event, but I'd rather have a body do the KOing. And then Brook is my small blocker, which I can get back with Mancherry, and it creates like some pretty crazy loops where Garp can block the swing, Mancherry just brings it back, and I basically can have a full protected board if I keep KOing their board. So I do play 3 of the Garps, and that's like the use there with my tech to make the Dofi and the Ploofy matchup a little bit easier. And then to finish up with the last tech card, I do play 2 Tempest Kick. I think with this deck you do fill up your trash pretty quick, where getting a free -3 on 1 Dawn comes out pretty useful in a lot of the matchups. Especially against Dofi, where -3 and dot Q, you can pop one of their 4-cost Warlords. But also being able to replace itself with the draw 1 helps keep your hand size at a decent size with the Blackbeard deck.
Really quick, for those of you who, if you're like me, I don't think I've ever seen this card before. I don't know what the hell it does. So we'll pull it up real quick for you guys. It's a blocker that also says activate main once per turn. Put a card in your trash back to the bottom of your deck and you get a -1. So those of you who bought your little smoker deck bricks, look out for these. These are going to the moon, guys.
Another good thing about the Garp is, because we had, I feel like there's a lot of important 5-cost targets in this current meta, where the Brook -1 and the Garp -1 helps bring those 5-cost targets into range for Black Hole. If you needed to remove a 5 without these tech, you most likely had to use Stronger and a Black Hole, which feels bad to do basically a -1, to remove 1 body. But if you get to use Brook or Garp, it feels a little bit better than having to use a 2K to remove a body.
Thank you for showing us your deck today, Daniel. So overall, how do you feel about Blackbeard as a deck for the rest of this format going forward?
If you don't expect to see too many Blackbeards, I think this deck list does cater to the rest of the format. But if you start seeing a lot more Blackbeard players, you'd have to find a balance into removing some cards and putting stage and maybe more of the event search to buff up Burgess. Because in the mirror specifically, like, you need to find all of your black holes, all of your Burgesses, all of your 10-cost teaches, and fix your hand with stage. So this is a little bit handicapped, I guess, like, against the mirror.
Are you going to change your deck list at all for the rest of the format personally, or are you going to stay with this and see how it goes and then adjust as you kind of need to?
I'll definitely adjust as I need to. I still don't think that... I think in locals you might see a lot more Blackbeard players, but if you start going into a regional or anything more competitive, I don't expect Blackbeard players as many, just because if you do not have like the tech in there to help against Poofy or Dofi, they just get cooked.
And last thing, for moving forward into OP09, some people think the decks gets even better. What do you think? What are your opinions? Have you seen any of the OP09 cards at all?
Yeah, I've seen OP09. I'm pretty excited about OP09, just because I'm already getting used to playing with the Blackbeard. But there's a new event that comes out. It's like a 6-cost, and it's almost like a black gravity blade, where you get to remove 2 bodies. And that's where the Blackbeard deck sort of falls behind in removing boards that go wide. And with that card, it makes it so that you don't need to have all these like odd ways to remove bodies, where that one card helps make this deck way more consistent and handle against those worst matchups. And then we also get the 5-cost Kuzan. The 5-cost Kuzan is like Burgess on steroids. that guy just cannot be removed. This text just says cannot be removed. So if you were worried about some matchups where they can trash, like if they were to play Tashigi or Kaido, your Kuzan is completely safe. It cannot be removed, and not only does it can't be removed, but it like draws a card and plays something from trash. So that card is like really, really powerful and makes this deck really good.
All right, cool. Thanks a lot, guys. Keep an eye out for this dude, man. There's 2 top 8s. He had top 8 in his regional earlier, and he's a force to be reckoned with. Stay tuned. You're gonna see more of this guy soon.
It's too good.
Thanks again.
Patreon soon.